Morgan has requested me on Patreon to review the Spanish film The Spirit of the Beehive. This is a movie I did not have much knowledge of before watching it, aside from it being about a young girl who watches the 931 version of Frankenstein. However, while that's an aspect of it, the film is actually about a lot more than that. Part of what makes The Spirit of the Beehive work so well is how we truly get to know the people at the center of it. This is not a plot-heavy film, instead showing little episodes in the lives of the characters. We mostly watch them as they go through their day-to-day life, mainly a beekeeper and his two young daughters. Victor Risi, who directed and co-wrote the movie, mostly absorbed the viewer using the atmosphere and the situations depicted. There's a notion that a film needs to have constant plot to be engaging, but not necessarily. There's always a place for movies like this that are more about creating a certain mood and feeling. He conveys so much about the home life of this family and the town they live in through the various shots and what they're doing in a given scene. The Spirit of the Beehive is set in 1940, during the early years of the Franco dictatorship. Because that was still in place when this film was being made, Risi cannot be overtly critical of the regime and was required to be subtle in how he approached the lives of the characters. He instead relied on symbolism to get his point across, while still being careful so the censors would not notice. One of the best things about the movie is how it depicts the two girls. The youngest one, Anna, is depicted as the more innocent of the two, and we see the immediate curiosity she feels after watching Frankenstein. To her, what she saw on that screen feels real, and she seems to recognize the humanity with the monster and holds curiosity for why he does certain actions, like the famous scene where he throws the girl in the water. The film does such a good job of showing the world through her eyes and how she reacts to the various events that occur. Her sister Isabel is depicted as someone who wants to shatter her illusions of the world. There's a scene where she mentions how fake movies are, reflecting how she's grown up and lost that sense of wonder. There are a few other scenes where Isabel plays some cruel tricks on her sister. We truly get to see the contrast between these two. The father, Fernando, becomes an engaging character too, even when he disappears from the film for a while. Like the girls, I really like the scenes of just him moving around the house and doing certain activities like writing about the behavior of the beehive. He comes across as a loving father, only becoming stern when he has to. The mother is not given the same attention and is largely off-screen. I felt she could have been fleshed out and given more to do, but I understand the focus was on the father and the two daughters. While there are scenes where characters having conversations, most of the Spirit of the Beehive is told primarily through the visuals and the actors' facial expressions. We have an idea of how they think and what's going through their heads just from the way they look at each other. That's a credit to the actors and to Victor Risi's direction. The cinematographer for the film was Luis Cuadrado, who used color to great effect and did a particularly good job of filming the scenes in the house and those set during nighttime. Cuadrado had been diagnosed with a brain tumor and was losing his eyesight during the production of Spirit of the Beehive, relying on his assistants for help. Despite that, he still created plenty of beautiful images. What I think the film is ultimately about is the need for sympathy in a cruel world. Anna does not see Frankenstein as this horrible monster, but instead as a figure who is unfairly chased by the villagers. This reflects Risi's own view of the Franco regime and how that sort of fascism isolated Spain, and the lack of humanity which greeted anyone who disagreed with how the government operated under that rule. Watching The Spirit of the Beehive, I cannot help but think that Guillermo del Toro is probably a fan of this movie. Like Anna, he was a Spanish-speaking child who was fascinated by Frankenstein and other monster movies, but found humanity in those creatures rather than being repulsed by them. Anti-fascist themes are also common in his films, with Del Toro openly stating that he hates anything that forces people to follow a specific structure. I then found out that he's indeed a huge fan of the movie and has been a big influence on his work. He has said that when he casts a movie of child actors, he looks at this film's casting choices for inspiration. And on the Criterion channel, there's even an interview with Del Toro talking about his admiration for the Spirit of the Beehive. Overall, this is a film that successfully draws you into the world, and I just like seeing where these characters went, the discussions they had, and how they took in the sights and sounds of this largely isolated village. I was captivated the whole way through, and I completely understand why this is considered one of the best movies to come out of Spain. If you've seen The Spirit of the Beehive, let me know your thoughts in the comments, and thank you so much for the request, Morgan.